Today I'm interviewing Azita Sobhani, who is representing the Bahai faith. Azita, would you like to tell us about where your journey started?
Oh, hi, Glenys and everyone. Yes, I was born in Iran originally, and in my secondary high schooling years, my parents took the initiative to send me to India to a private boarding school. It was an international school, and so people from 30 different countries were there. Every summer we came back to our countries. One summer I couldn't. Politically, the regime in Iran had changed, and this Islamic Republic of Iran had taken off, and of course we espouse the Bahai faith, and the Bahai faith is the highest minority in Iran. It was heavily persecuted. Kids were not allowed to go to school or university. People couldn't hold jobs, and nobody could leave the country. So here I was stuck in, of course, India, and my parents were in Iran. And the only way they could come was to recant their faith, and of course they stood by that principle and did not. And so years passed on. Finally, the international Baha'i community rallied. Australia was among the countries that opened their doors, and here I arrived with 2 suitcases and $200 in my pocket, and that was it. That was the start of.
Without your parents?
Without my parents, of course. It was just me, because then technology, no access, and so they were still stuck in Iran, and I was in Australia. So that's what brought me here.
How old were you at that stage?
Probably about mid-20s, about 24, 25.
But you'd been stuck in India a few years.
Yes, I was there for a good 10 years. I did my graduation, postgrad, and, made some wonderfully lasting friendships. But, I had to leave because I didn't have papers to stay.
Oh, you're very lucky. Your parents still there?
So my parents stayed back. No, they joined me 25 years later in Australia, and by then they were really grown. These 2 older people that I was picking up in Melbourne airport. So a big chunk of life had passed.
And
yes.
what has happened to you since your arrival in Australia?
Well, I was here in Australia. Then I always wanted to have this equitable equality more around the world. So I thought I'll study international development and economics. I did that and went into the aid sector. So I was heavily involved in recruiting experts and going to countries like Philippines, China, Tibet, India, and building capability both individually, empowering communities, and institutionally, because of course one without the other can't move. So that's what I did. This was my area. After a while I realized, I think our Australia is a mini United Nations, so better get back the skills and bring it back home to see how we can build, more cohesive communities with this kind of diversity that we have. And so that has been my work ever since in gender and leadership and building cohesive communities, how we can do that. And I've been working since with a lot of councils, with a lot of community groups, non-government organizations. Actually, that is what brought me to Whittlesea. Whittlesea Community Connect came to me and said, we've got a whole lot of asylum seekers who really are finding it difficult to settle in the community. And so we started this wonderful program, and after that, it's just history. I'm working with Bayside communities and various other things. Meanwhile, it was exciting to be part of the UN Commission on the Status of Women, be the Australian representative. So that's been sort of my area of work.
So you've travelled a lot as well.
I have, yes, I have, yes.
And how did your faith help you to settle in here?
Yeah, the Baha'i faith, not sure if you know. But you see, the heart of the Baha'i faith is this consciousness that humankind is one. So now it becomes a question of, okay, so how do we embody this individually, but also in our social structures? So then fundamentally what was interesting for me is that the Baha'i faith said, man is organic with the environment in which it lives. We can't sort of change one hoping for the other to sort of change. So we change human beings and then suddenly we have beautiful communities, or we change communities and then we have fantastic human beings. It's sort of a dynamic process of one affecting the other. So as human beings try to bring the consciousness of, okay, we are all one, then our social structures, the way we educate kids, the way, health sector, every aspect of life then needs to restructure. So it was fascinating for me, and that was my drive, my faith. That, okay, so that's how we'll move forward. And so because of that, then I involved in this sort of global educational programs where the Baha'is, go to communities and say, okay, so it's not Baha'i, it's just for everyone. How do we become, empowered communities? What needs to change? So we are really fascinated in this inquiry and want to, partner with everyone. And that is why we are, very excited to be part of Interfaith as well. So that's what embeds me in my community.
Yeah. And your faith is really part of your everyday life.
It is. It underpins everything. Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
so
that's. Too. But did you have an Iranian community or?
We have Baha'i communities, yes, that can be from diverse backgrounds, Persian, Iranian, Australian, but in Australia, well, mostly Australian. And so it's, of course, I was embedded there. There was a lot of support.
Because you had no family.
Exactly, yes. And so they become your support network. But at the same time, you want to give back to the community. And in that, you build the capability.
Yes.
You see, because then you have a drive. It's not all about me trying to settle, but learning moral capabilities. Okay, so how do I partner with others who are in this community that I can make friendships with? So that was exciting for me. Yes,
it's been very inspiring. So thank you for that, Azita.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.